And we're live and on the air.
Finally.
Or we could be the Dan Mullen and Hugh Freeze of comics.
I
don't know.
We could.
I don't care.
I'm ready.
Alrighty. Stuff. Hang on. Now I got to answer text messages.
I'm playing Tiger Woods 14 on my Xbox.
How are you? How's it?
Oh, I like it.
Okay. Counting down in 3, 2, 1.
What is up? This is the 6 month behind podcast for the week of February 20th, 2017, where we discuss all things Marvel Unlimited, all the comic books that came out this week. I'm Pat.
And I'm Sean.
And we're the Paul Feinbaum and Dan Mullins of the Marvel Unlimited world, bringing you everything there is to talk about in Marvel Comics this week. How you doing, my man?
I'm good, dude. I'm doing all right. Speaking of Dan Mullen, he got a 4-year contract extension today.
And he deserves a 4-year contract extension because Mississippi State fans need to learn that they're not going to do better than Dan Mullins.
No, they're really not.
They're just, dude, he's a very good coach. He's very good. And, you know, you're not going to get Nick Saban at Mississippi State.
You're just not. Heck, I'd take him at Auburn.
Dude, he's really good, man. He's a good recruiter. He's a good coach. And he is what he is, man. He's a good guy.
Yeah. And of course, you don't have to compete with Ole Miss now. So
have they been slapped down yet?
Dude, yeah. Did you not hear? They got a bunch of sanctions slapped against them.
No, I haven't.
Dude, you might as well just fold the football program. They hit them. They threw the whole book at them.
They were so arrogant. They didn't take a bowl ban this year. I mean, when they were like headed for a 500 or sub 500 season, and they were convinced they weren't going to get a bowl ban. So they didn't even take a self-imposed bowl ban.
They're banned from if I remember correctly, they're banned from the postseason for the next 2 to 3 years.
Holy cow, man. Really?
Yeah, dude. Look up what's going on with Ole Miss. It's bad.
Oh, dude, I know what's going on, but they were just convinced that there was nothing there to see.
Yeah, well, they hit them with loss of institutional control.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
Dude, they've been out of control, man. They have had loss of institutional control.
Yeah, it's rough. What's not rough is Auburn's ladies softball team, which is currently 9-1 and second in the SEC. Second overall.
They're awesome. Is Maddie Gibson still down there?
Yeah, she's on the team. She's there.
Yeah, because I think she's a junior this year, isn't she?
Oh, I have no idea. I would imagine, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, they're doing great, and they're going to go all the way this year. I believe it.
Trying to think how far they made it in the World Series last year.
They were in the World Series. It was them and
I know. I mean, I'm trying to think how far they made it. I think they made it to the round of.
No, I mean it was them and the other team in the World Series. It was like game 6, I think.
No.
5 or 6.
No, they weren't in the World Series last year.
We're gonna consult the Googles before we transition the sports podcast into a comic book podcast.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to comics because we have.
Okay.
It's a mediocre week. It's not a great week. It's not a terrible week. It's mediocre.
Yeah, it was an okay week. I mean, it was all right.
Yeah, it wasn't. Some of them were good. Some of them were bad. They were real hit and miss this week.
Yeah, they played 6 games against Oklahoma for the World Series. Oklahoma won.
No. They play 2 out of 3 for the championship. They don't play 6 games.
Oh, well, however many. Either way, they played Oklahoma and lost. Anyway, moving back to our original intent for this show, we are actually going to talk about comic books this week. But before we do that, you can send us an email at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. You can also visit our website at
www.6monthsbehind.com. SIX.
And just to let you guys know, we are going to discuss spoilers this podcast. So if you have not read all the books, please feel free to pause now, go finish reading, and come back when you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't believe me.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Okay.
All
our
right.
first book this week, we got several Civil War books, Civil War II, and again, not many good ones.
Yeah.
What did you think of them?
I'll be honest, man. I thought it was a mediocre week overall. You got a couple standouts. This Fallen book is it's all right. It's pretty good. I mean, it's mostly dealing with the fallout of, Bruce Banner's death.
Yeah, this Fallen book is all right. It's we begin at Bruce Banner's funeral, and you see basically the characters that are in Bruce Banner's life plus a couple of extra. You see Betsy Ross, the Thing,
Rick Jones,
the Warbound, Rick Jones.
Yeah, the Warbound are there. Silver Surfer's there.
Captain America's there. That's really about it. And Rick Jones kind of gets angry because all the heroes aren't there. And, that leads to him getting a little angry. Plus, the crowd's real rowdy because they don't feel that the Hulk should be getting any kind of funeral, I guess.
Man, I guess. Apparently, people really hated the Hulk.
Well, for every time he saved the world, he destroyed the world. And that's kind of their point. That's basically their point is for all the saving he did, there was a lot of mass destruction. So
right. But which we'll find out later, he made great efforts to amend.
Right. So basically they just kind of do a quick funeral and then they go their own separate ways. And Betty Ross goes and tells her husband, or excuse me, her father, Thunderbolt Ross, about it. And I don't know what kind of reaction she expected, but he's pleased. And then we find Sakaar, the Hulk's son, and he didn't know about it. He finds about it on a TV broadcast, and the Warbound finds
well
it.
After it's happened.
Well, 2 or 3 months after it's happened.
Yeah.
And the Warbound goes and finds him. And you really have to be familiar with the Planet Hulk storyline to understand all these characters. And
yeah, I figured that's where they came in.
It was years of story arcs from Planet Hulk to World War Hulk, where all these characters evolved and came together, and that's where all these characters evolved and came together as a team and came into the Hulk continuity, if you will. Is during the World War Hulk and Planet Hulk story. You got a little scene with Rick Jones and Betsy Ross, and finally you wind up with the reading of Bruce Banner's will, where he leaves everyone different gifts and money. And finally, his parting wish is that they would all take time and pause before they do something stupid, of which Amadeus Cho completely ignores. And then sets out to what we saw last week, which is
Amadeus Cho.
Yeah, which is the Awesome Hulk #9, where he goes to tick off S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah. So it's not bad. It's kind of a companion to the book we had last week, which was The Trial of Hawkeye. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, they're kind of companion books, and they're decent one-shots.
you need books like this to explore this kind of stuff during these events. When you have something like this happen, to be able to explore it. So you have these little one-offs, and it was not bad.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, you got the Ultimates that explores, what happens with that young lady that arrested. You got the Fallen. You got the Accused that explores the trial. Yeah, so you got little books that go different directions, exploring these things. They're not bad. They're not bad.
No, not at all.
Okay,
it was pretty good. Moving on to Civil War II, Amazing Spider-Man number 3. At Parker Industries, Harry's giving Pete a pep talk about the situation with Clayton Cole, who is Clash. If you remember from the last issue, dude's mental breakdown. Clayton Cole as Clash is meeting with Robot Master. Is that who that is?
I think I've never seen this character before. I don't. If I've never seen this guy, I don't remember him.
Yeah, he's mostly a robot himself. And they have a discussion about using his technology and, getting up to all kinds of villainy. It turns out to be he turns on him and tries to take down Robot Master on his own. Not to work out so well for him because he hasn't done this in a while and he's pretty rusty. And apparently this Robot Master guy's a better villain than he is. Spider-Man shows up and they take out Master Robot together. Unfortunately, using the Clash Sonic technology is a violation of Clayton's parole and is probably going to land him back in jail. Clayton sees him save the end on a high note. Spider-Man books often don't.
Yeah.
And I kind of like a little bit of me feels for Clayton Cole in this because he's just trying to help, but he keeps making the wrong decisions. He needs to just go back to Parker Industries and do his work and just bide his time until his parole's over. Then he can do what he wants to do. And he just doesn't seem to want to do that.
Yeah. And you begin to wonder at the end of the book if he's not a little unstable.
He's definitely a little unstable, especially given what's happened the last couple of days and given how this book ends. I don't think this is going to end well at all.
No, not at
all. Not bad though. Not really a Civil War book. Kind of, not really.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's more of just a Spider-Man story than it is a Civil War book.
Right. It's okay.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yeah. It was all right. It was okay.
Yeah. Tell us about Civil War II, Gods of War, number 3.
This is okay. I mean, it's got Hercules going insane because the storm branded him and is driving insane. And I want to call this an Avengers team, but it's really not. It's kind of a mix-max of Avengers. You got Captain Marvel, Captain America, Medusa, Spider-Man showing up to try and rein Hercules in. And I'm trying to remember the old lady's name. Anyway, she's cracking jokes the whole time, even though she's blind. And Hercules kind of thumps the Avengers. And they finally stop him by Captain America yelling, "Avengers Assemble," which somehow snaps him out of his madness, which I don't really understand, but it does. And at that point, Hercules is free of his madness. And the Storm leave, and Hercules, tells him he's got everything under control. Captain America says everything's cool, and they'll call him if he needs him. And Hercules says he'll call him if he needs him. And Captain Marvel, who's becoming more and more of a villain, which I think we argued about last week, and I kind of disagreed with you on. And this book, she actually, it depends on who's writing her. In this book, she's kind of written like a villain.
Yeah, I mean, depending on who's writing her, she's she's presented as more of, sometimes it's more a little more ambiguous as to her.
Right. Because Captain America acts like everything's cool. And then, she tells Hercules, hey, I don't care what he said. I got my own you. In a Nick Fury kind of way. And then when they all leave, Hercules turns to the rest guy and said, look, we're going to handle this ourselves. Because they don't understand. And I don't care if they do understand. It's time I handle my own business myself.
Yeah.
I will say this about this book. I really enjoyed the art and the color in it. It's got some decent art.
Who did the art?
Hang on, I'll find out. Particularly the covers. The covers are really good, and some of the art and covers good. I think they're doing a good job with Hercules, and it is something I'm not finding. If I could find it, I'd tell you, dude.
The book is mostly just a big fight between Hercules and various Avengers.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's at the end. Hang on, there it was. Emilio Lacio.
I'm not familiar.
I'm not either. And Jay Aclito and Romeo Frigiano Jr. did the cover, which is really good. That's a couple of cool covers.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, those are some cool covers. Both the one that's on it now and then the one that's at the back coming for next issue. Those are cool covers.
Yeah, it's again, this is not nearly as much a Civil War book as it is just a Hercules book, but I mean, it touches on some elements, so I guess you can call it a Civil War book.
Yeah.
Civil War X-Men #3. Now, this was actually pretty good. I thought this was a really good story, and actually has to do with Civil War, not just the event that's going on, but this Civil War that seems to have broken out among the X-Men.
Yeah, among the X-Men, among the X-Men and the Inhumans, there's just people fighting everywhere.
Yeah, we begin with a short flashback, or I guess flash forward into the future involving Rachel Gray. From there, we go to present day Rachel, who's in London, where she's confronted by Magneto, and he's attempting to recruit her for his war against the Inhumans. From there, we go to a private meeting in New York between Storm and Medusa regarding the recent incident with Gambit and Fantomex. If you remember, Gambit was Storm's spy that she sent to spy on the Inhumans, and Fantomex was the spy that Magneto sent to spy on the Inhumans, and they tussled it out in the middle of a hallway in New Attilan. But Storm wants Medusa to let them handle the Magneto situation themselves, and Medusa thinks that the X-Men should have taken care of Magneto a long time ago, and it's entirely their fault that he's opposing the Inhumans now. And I don't disagree with her. Medusa accuses Storm of sympathizing with Magneto. Of course, Storm's able to convince her not to pursue Magneto for now, but should Magneto continue to be aggressive, Medusa feels she has no other choice but to retaliate. So now Medusa's sent her own spy into Magneto's headquarters in the Savage Land, and if you notice, Rachel is there with them. He was able to convince her to come along.
Yeah, I saw that.
Magneto and his team are discussing what to do with Ulysses when Sabretooth is able to sniff out the spy. They catch up to him, and of course, as Magneto does, he sees this as a provocation and an excuse to escalate the situation. In New York, Gambit's taken Fantomex to a safe house where the X-Men show up to interrogate him. However, the Beans voluntarily, which is unusual, that he's just gonna tell them everything that's up. But it turns out to be a trap. Magneto's X-Men are waiting for them as a distraction while Nightcrawler teleports away with Fantomex. And this leads to a confrontation between the two groups of X-Men. Except the whole thing is a distraction. While they're fighting, Magneto and Rachel are preparing to attack New Attilan.
Yeah.
And I think this is a Civil War book. It has a lot to do with Ulysses and everything else, but it's really just a lot of the early sparks in the X-Men versus Inhumans thing.
You know, here's what I don't like about what Marvel has done and is doing. You obviously see that this is leading to the Inhumans versus X-Men.
Yeah, it's obvious.
Right. Here's the timeline. You've got, let me think about this. You've got a month left in Civil War. So next month you get X-Men #3, Civil War X-Men #4, which will be the conclusion of that.
Yeah.
From that, you're going straight into Death of X #1. Okay. All those books ship on time. So you'll have 2 months of Death of X. All right. That's a 4-issue event shipping every 2 weeks.
Right. It's really a primer for IVX, isn't it?
It is a primer for IVX. It tells you what happens to several X-Men that you haven't seen since Secret Wars. Now, there's not a secret here. I can start listing them for you, and I'll just list 2 or 3 off top of my head. Okay, you haven't seen Scott Summers, you haven't seen Emma Frost. You can take it from there. There's some other X-Men you haven't seen, and if I were to mention them, you would say, "Oh, I haven't seen these characters." Okay, but you haven't seen those 2 characters, and there's others you haven't seen.
Yeah.
And what Marvel has really done here is if they had taken Death of X and placed it before Civil War, what you're seeing in this X-Men, Civil War X-Men would make much more sense. If you were to read Death of X, then Civil War X-Men, it would make much more sense, and then to go into IVX. I promise you it would. It would make so much more sense. But they chose to do Civil War, then Death of X, and then IVX. And I understand why they did it. I mean, I understand the storytelling reason, because what you're getting is you're getting Civil War, then essentially you're getting Death of X, which is going straight into IVX. I mean, there's simply no stopping. It's Death of X. 2 weeks later, you get IVX #0, which goes straight into Inhumans versus X-Men. It's just there's just no stop. Everything's shipping 2 weeks. It's all shipping on time. It's just 2 weeks continually. So
yeah, I mean, it's a narrative decision. You have all this ramp up in Civil War X-Men, then you find out you have all these revelations in Death of X, then armed with that information, that new information, and knowing what happens in Civil War X-Men, you go straight into IVX, which is the climax of the whole thing.
Right. Exactly. And you understand this conversation between Storm and Medusa makes so much more sense since I've read Death of X. Okay. You understand why Storm and Medusa are so desperately trying to maintain the peace between the X-Men and the Inhumans if you've read Death of X.
Right.
I mean, it's just you understand there's a very fragile piece here, and they're trying to maintain it. Okay, right. This is both sides are desperately on the brink of war, and they're really trying to maintain it here.
Yeah, I mean, and both of them are doing it not just to protect their own people, but because they know that a clash between Inhumans and X-Men is going to be devastating for the planet.
Yeah, for the planet, for both their races. It's just
relations, their relations with regular humans.
Yeah, it's just bad for everybody. Right.
Yeah, because the regular humans are already, they've been distrustful of the X-Men for ages. They're not exactly, they haven't really made up their mind about the Inhumans yet, especially with this new Terrigen Mist thing. Yeah, and I mean, there's plenty of reasons why you would want to avoid this conflict, but as I guess we're finding out, the conflict is unavoidable.
Yeah, it's obviously going somewhere, and I mean, it is, and it's going to be good.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. which brings us to Civil War II, Ulysses Infinite Comic number 4. This has been a very good series, and I don't know what this issue is. This is just a filler issue because you've got Karnak going to, I believe it's Portland, to see if the train wreck that Ulysses saw in his vision is really going to happen. And you've got Ulysses trying to break out of his jail cell to go tell somebody about the train wreck. And that's the whole issue. That's it. That's the whole issue. Done. That's it. Done.
Yeah. Not a lot going on there for real.
No, I mean, that's seriously, I just summarized the whole issue.
Yeah. And I mean, there's not a lot to discuss around it either. It's just Ulysses is trapped in the tower, and yeah, that's it.
Karnak's trying to figure out if the kid's power really works. Bada bing, bada boom. That's it.
Civil War II, Choosing Sides number 4.
Okay, let me say this.
Yeah.
I made a stand here. I have never read a Power Pack story in my entire life, and I didn't read this one.
Okay. Real quick, before we get into it, who is the Power Pack? Because I do not know any of these characters.
It's got something to do with
something to do with Franklin Richards.
One of them's one of the Richard kids, and the other of them are, I don't know, some power family, and they all got powers, and they're all little infant kids whose parents got no parental responsibilities because they let their kids run around and fight supervillains when they ought to be in bed in little cribs.
I mean, they're not that young.
They ain't old enough to be doing what they do.
Okay. So this Choosing Sides, as always, it's 3 separate stories. In the first one, you got a group of criminals who are really in over their heads trying to steal a virus to use as a bioweapon. Punisher shows up, cracks some skulls, and there's a lot of blood.
Yeah, there is.
that tends to happen when Punisher shows up.
Yeah, but this one was like lots of blood, man. And by the way, how do you put a Punisher book and a Power Pack book in the same issue?
Dude,
I should say. I mean, they're like back to back, man.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I mean, that's like, that's like Freddy Krueger and Winnie the Pooh story in the same book. I mean, it's dude.
So the second story is about the Power Pack touring a college campus. Apparently one of them's a 17, 18-year-old. You got like a 13-year-old dude, a 7-year-old girl. And apparently Franklin Richards is usually with them when he's not off, creating universes. But yeah, I have no idea what this story has to do with Civil War, what it has to do with any of the narratives going on, who these kids are, or why I care.
That's how I usually feel about Power Pack.
Yeah. Somebody said, hey, I want to write a Power Pack story, and one of the editors found a way for them to do that.
There you go.
Final story, checking back in with Nick Fury. This whole thing is told silently. There's no dialogue at all. It's all visual, which I really love. They've been doing this with Black Widow some too, and I really like it when they do this. Nick Fury is stealing some information from the SHIELD helicarrier and gets pursued by Black Widow. Nick Fury escapes.
By the way, okay, how is Black Widow a SHIELD agent pursuing Nick Fury when she's persona non grata with SHIELD?
The only thing I can think is that this is taking place at a different time.
Okay. For those, this is the non-visual medium. I literally scratched my head.
He did. I can confirm. Yeah, man. I don't know. Sometimes you get these like one-off stories like you're getting with this Black Widow book where it's happening in a real short amount of time, even though we're getting the issues over a longer amount of time.
That's true. That is true.
It's that whole compressed timeline thing that happens with Marvel. We're getting these stories over months, but the whole story may take place within, 3 to 5 days.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I think is going on there.
Right.
That's all of our Civil War books for the week. Moving on to our Spider-Man books, which we have 2 of. We have Spider-Woman number 10. Carol has Jess taking on some of these Ulysses lower level visions, including interrogating the Melter at Black Bolt's quiet room, a fungus monster on the moon, and enlisting the help of a few Howling Commandos to take care of some sort of monster that's eating people's pets. But then you get to this old lady who was transformed by the Terrigen Mist out in Arizona, and she seems to have some sort of reality altering powers. I wasn't quite sure on what that was about. But really, Carol seems to be using Jess as a way to figure out just how accurate Ulysses' visions are. This seems to be her way of trying to figure out, is it 20%? Is it 40%? Is it 95%? And they seem to... Tony's whole argument was, what if his visions are accurate less than 10% of the time? But I'm not sure that's the case with Ulysses. And you've read the whole thing, so maybe you know more than I do, but I feel like maybe he's not accurate 100% of the time, but it's a high percentage. It's up there.
I was reviewing the Ultimates and I was listening to you, but I wasn't listening to you, but I'm trying to think of where he was wrong.
The lady with the briefcase.
I'm not sure. I don't know if that's ever resolved.
I
don't know if we ever get a resolution to the lady with the briefcase.
So this whole thing's blown over. Everybody's moved on. And she's still sitting in a SHIELD interrogation cell somewhere.
No, I think Nightcrawler breaks her out, and we never figure out if she's good or bad.
Oh, that's right.
Well, because all I read was Civil War, the main Civil War story. Okay, so all I read was the main 8 issues, and I never read the ancillary stories like we're seeing here in the Ultimates.
Right.
So I don't really know if it was resolved in the main story.
Right.
But I know where Ulysses goes, and well, I can't discuss this without spoiling it.
Yeah, please don't.
Yeah, I can't. I can't answer that question.
Yeah. So our issue with Spider-Woman ends with her and Ben Urich getting a drink at a bar. Jess decides to phone Carol and say, hey, your dude's visions are pretty accurate. And Carol keeps trying to tell her, hey, now's not really a good time. We got to talk about this later. And what Jess is oblivious to is that on the news in the bar is the news that Hawkeye shot Bruce Banner. And when Jess finally comes around and figures out what's going on, she's very unhappy.
Yeah, she's beyond unhappy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a bad book. I like the art in this book.
I thought it was very good. It drags, but it's setting something up. And when it gets there, particularly in next issue, it's going to be good.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a really good issue. Also, the cover is rad.
Yeah.
It's a really good cover.
Yeah.
Then our last Spider-Man book this week is Web Warriors number 10. Also a rad cover. Octavia and all of the Web Warriors show up on Earth 1036, which is one we've apparently never heard of. They interrupt a Spider-Man movie shoot and recruit one of the actresses as Spider-Woman just because she knows a couple of different forms of martial arts. Yeah. Karn can't seem to teleport them to the right Earth, and they keep getting sent to silly places like an Earth where everyone and everything is made of bread. I thought that was funny.
That was funny.
Yeah. It's something I really enjoy about this book is there's serious stuff going on, but it's also really funny. So it's kind of got this drama comedy thing going on, and it's a nice balance. Also notice how the art style keeps shifting. Like they use multiple artists on this book, and depending on what Earth they're on, they use that particular art style.
Right.
Which I thought was a nice little visual thing to do. Turns out it's exactly what we thought it was. The Warriors jumping from world to world all willy-nilly is exactly what's tangled the web in the first place. So Spider-Ham decides to blow this off and get a burrito.
I love Spider-Ham.
Dude, Spider-Ham's the best. He's like 40% of the reason I'm reading this book. Finally, things start coming together for the Warriors as they figure out how to untangle the web, and they all start finding each other across the various Earths. They finally all get together, bring the fight to the Electros, and then it all comes unraveled.
Yeah.
And we'll see where it goes from there.
This was a good book.
I am really enjoying the Web Warriors.
I haven't enjoyed all of them, but I enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the greatest thing I've ever read, but they're doing something with this whole web of life and destiny thing, which they've played with in the Spider-Man universe for a long time. You know, every now and again, Madam Web shows up and says, Spider-Man, the web of life and destiny is under a threat. You and these other Spider-Men from these other universes have to get together and go save it. And now they're just telling those stories in perpetuality.
Right.
In perpetuity? I don't know.
One of those P words.
Yeah, one of those P words. And it's a part of the Spider-Man mythos that I've always really been intrigued by. And it's cool to see them doing something with it on a regular basis. Also, when there's a splash page where they show a bunch of the different Spider-Man from the different universes, and one of them is a Spider-Man Iron Fist.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. There's a bunch of like funny little visual things in this book.
Huh.
You have to really read this book to get some of the humor of it.
Yeah.
Me describing it doesn't necessarily, do the best.
Okay.
That's all of our Spider-Man books. The singular X-Men book that we had this week was All New Wolverine number 11. Looking for my notes.
I got it.
No, I got it. I got it right here.
First off, while you're looking, the cover art is done by Bingle. I don't know how you get a one word name as Bingle, but it's really great. It's a great cover. And I've seen his work. I've seen his work before, and it's very good work. And the interior art is done by I.G. Guara.
Mm-hmm.
Guara. And it's very good too. But both of these artists are doing good work on this book.
Yeah. I just don't know how you get a tiger to hold a paintbrush like that. Or a pen.
I don't either, man. But hey, he does it and it looks good.
Yeah. So Captain America's outside Laura's apartment. Of course, S.H.I.E.L.D. thinks he's going to kill Gabby. That was the vision that Ulysses had. But for now, he just wants to talk with Logan. Of course, S.H.I.E.L.D. being S.H.I.E.L.D., they have agents surrounding the building. I thought it was really funny the way Gabby salutes Captain America when she sees him.
And keeps saluting.
Yeah, she just salutes and then doesn't stop.
Yeah.
This is a reminder that Cap is a Hydra agent. Just remember that as you're reading this. So Captain America asks Logan to come quietly, but S.H.I.E.L.D., being S.H.I.E.L.D., has other plans. They try to shoot Logan through a window, and it all goes to hell really fast. Agents bust down the door. Gambit and Logie make an escape with jetpacks, cutting through their way through the building, which is also kind of funny. This is another one of those books that there's a lot of action and drama, but they're not afraid to drop a joke in. Like at one point, he's literally cutting holes in the walls and running through other people's apartments.
Yes.
So one of them, they run past some people who were in bed and were rudely interrupted from their activities.
Yeah.
So just as Captain America catches up to them, Laura pumps him full of tranquilizers. And this is where he tells Laura about Ulysses' vision. And S.H.I.E.L.D. agents shoot Logan out of the sky, and he goes feral. And this is probably where the whole Gabby thing happens. And again, you can make the argument like we keep being able to do. if they had not tried to prevent this, this whole thing would have never happened.
Correct.
So this is where I think Ulysses' visions are flawed.
I don't know, because if you cause it, it still happens.
Right, but if you don't act on it at all, does it happen?
It still happened. Whatever the cause, it still happened.
Right. So you didn't prevent anything.
Yes, but whatever the cause, the effect happened.
Okay. But you can make the argument that if they didn't do anything, that they caused it.
Yes, but whatever the cause, the effect happened.
I don't understand your argument from a fundamental perspective.
He is seeing the future. Whatever caused the future is the future.
No, it's not, because the decisions haven't been made yet. The future is fluid.
He would say it isn't.
And Tony Stark would say it is. We know it is because he saw Daredevil dying last week and Coulson changed the future.
True.
Anyway, speaking of saving the future, Ultimates number 10.
Ultimates number 10 begins with Connor Sims and Thanos, where Thanos is trying to persuade Connor Sims to assist him. And what he does is tries to convince him that the Ultimates aren't really his friends. And then we switch to the young lady whose name I don't see being arrested there on the courthouse steps. I believe it's Megan something.
Yeah.
And all of the Ultimates are there, and they're discussing the legality of her being arrested.
Yeah.
Detained. And the funny thing is Black Panther isn't saying much. And they're all discussing the legality of it, and Blue Marvel wasn't very happy. So they get her arrested. I'm trying to find a young lady's name. Miss Green. There we go.
Yeah.
And Blue Marvel and Miss Marvel swap a few words, and finally they get back to their Triskelion. And turns out there's actually nothing in the briefcase. Nothing at all.
There was supposed to be this like black hole device that was going to level the financial district, and it ain't there.
Right. So they begin swapping words over whether or not arresting her was the right thing to do and keeping her is the right thing to do.
Yeah. Real quick.
Yes.
What is Ulysses wearing here? What is this get up and face paint that he's wearing? Is this his new costume?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't know. So they begin swapping words. See, Captain America, Miss America, has seen all these alternate realities. And she's not real happy with this. As a matter of fact, she's not happy at all. And she decides to prevent it from going any further. And in preventing it from going any further, she just kind of takes a swing at Captain Marvel with the chair.
She hits Carol in the face with a chair.
Yeah. And from there, it all goes downhill with Black Panther watching until he decides who to help. And from there on, it's an all-out fight. And that's when Thanos makes his move, because he looks at Connor Sims and says, hey, can you really trust these people? And are these people that are really going to help you? And Connor says, no, apparently not. And at that point, he and Connor decide it's time to break out. And Connor Sims, who is extremely powerful, and Thanos, who's Thanos, are now free in the Triskelion.
Yeah. And I mean, Thanos used him just to break free.
I don't think so. I think he wants to break free and he wants his power.
Well, maybe that too, but he definitely he saw an opportunity to use this kid as he's not a kid, but he used him as a way to escape. And quite frankly, Ulysses didn't see this coming.
No. I think Thanos used. I think Thanos wanted all of the above. I think he wanted to create the chaos. I think he wants the kids' power, and I think he wanted to be right in the middle of the Triskelion. Where is there a cosmic cube being stored?
It's on Earth, and it might be in the Triskelion. Yeah.
So he's got this guy's power. He's there in the middle of the Triskelion. Yeah, dude, he's got it all.
Yeah, he's where he wants to be. He was not on Earth. From all points of perspective, the Avengers attacked him and brought him to Earth. So if he gets a hold of the cosmic cube, it's the Ultimate's fault.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Which, again, I'm telling you, there's a flaw in Ulysses' visions here.
Right. Yeah,
they're not preventing as much trouble as they seem to think that they are.
I think he's just learning how to use his power.
Maybe so, but Carol wants to use it as ironclad evidence against everybody, and man, I got problems with that.
Yeah.
And then we come to Uncanny Avengers number 12. This was a really good book.
This was a really good book.
You just read this recently, didn't you?
Yeah, we discussed this. What I tend to do if I have a stack of books to read, I will read the worst ones first, and then put the best ones off to last. So what often happens as we're reading books throughout the week is I will look up like sometimes an hour or two before the podcast and realize, oh no, I haven't read the Ultimates, or I haven't read Uncanny Avengers, or I haven't read whatever the best book might be. And an hour before the podcast, I realized, oh no, I haven't read Uncanny Avengers number 12 because, I put off the best books to last. So yeah, I read it about an hour ago.
Okay. So continuing our fight with Ultron here, Iron Man comes in with his Hulkbuster armor, but it turns out it's actually empty, and Tony uses it as a trap for Ultron. So the plan is to capture Ultron in the Hulkbuster armor, shove him in a spaceship, and shoot him into the sun. And that plan doesn't work out real well. Gary Dugan's doing a really good job making Ultron frightening. Wouldn't you agree? Like,
absolutely.
Ultron is, especially with this Hank Pym quality to him, where it's Hank Pym and Ultron, it really amps up this like unnerving quality to Ultron.
Well, he just took the insanity of Ultron and, shoved it off the edge. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what really makes Ultron scary.
Right.
So Ultron's blowing apart the Avengers' whole plan at every step, and it's looking like it's going to be a close call. The Vision is demanding to know what Ultron's motive is in all this, because he believes that deep down, Ultron has always wanted to be one of them. He's always wanted to be an Avenger. This is when Ultron reveals that it's all really a trap. This was his ultimate vision. He's been killing billions of alien races across the galaxy and letting them know that they had the Avengers to thank for it. So now all of these alien races are going to descend on the Earth and destroy the Avengers. Or at least that's what Ultron's hoping for. Man, I gotta say, the dialogue between Vision and Ultron in this book is really good.
Yeah, it is.
Especially if you understand the history between those two characters. It's really good. Because they're essentially two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
But also remember that the Vision has removed his emotional chip and is basically an insane person at this time.
Right.
Which is when he decides, when he makes the call that Hank Pym's no longer in there. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, that's the call he made. And there at the end, I think we realize he's wrong.
Yeah. I'm not going to spoil the ending for you, but it's really good. Dude, this is one of the best Avengers stories I've read in recent memory. And I'm really kind of sad that this was just a this was just like a 3 or 4 issue story arc and not like a big event. This is a storyline that really could have been expanded and made into a big event. You could have written 8 issues about this.
Dude, I think it was 5. It was 4 or 5 issues. It wasn't short.
Yeah, but you could have spanned this thing over several different titles.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I thoroughly
it was good.
What's your take on the book?
Oh, dude, I thought it was great, man. I thought it was very good.
Yeah, it's probably the best this Uncanny Avengers book has been.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Gary Dugan just killed it.
Yeah, it was great.
That's all of our Avengers books. Now just getting into our regular 616 books, we've got Gwenpool number 5, which has been it's been okay. It's a little, I'm not going to call it hit or miss, but sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes I want to read it and sometimes I'm just getting through it, but it's always pretty funny. So after having defeated MODOK, Gwen is faced with explaining herself to the new big boss or whoever was giving orders to MODOK. The team elects Gwen as their new representative, and Gwen has a conversation with her ghost friend about avenging his death so he can move on to the afterlife. I think that's going to play a role in something later, but we'll see. Across town, Spider-Man's beating up some monsters, and afterwards catches the subway home and runs into Gwen. Of course, Gwen fangirls out about him being Spider-Man, and Miles is not real happy about it. By the way, this is Miles Morales, not Peter Parker. He's not real happy that somebody else.
Not Miguel O'Hara.
Yeah, not Miguel O'Hara either.
Right.
Or the other Gwen Stacy.
No.
He's not real happy about that someone else has been revealed to know his secret identity, which is happening to Miles a lot lately.
It is, isn't it?
Gank blew his cover with the new kid at school. Gwen knows he's battling with the decision to tell his mother that he's Spider-Man. Lots of people figuring out he's Spider-Man. Jessica Jones has figured out he's Spider-Man. Yeah. So after leaving the subway, they're walking down the street and there's a big explosion. So both of them jump into action to save the day. Gwen decides she's going to turn this whole thing into a Spider-Man team up and figure out who bombed the school. Meanwhile, Gwen never made it to the meeting with the big boss, and the team receives a weird phone call from aliens in space. And I'm not sure what that's about, but they've got a picture of Gwen with a big squid. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, apparently we're going to see Gwen and Miles Morales team up for an issue or two in the next issue.
Yes.
Not bad. I enjoyed it.
It was all right. It wasn't great. It wasn't the best of the series, but it wasn't bad. The series is selling well. So there you go.
Of course, it's got pool in the name. It's going to sell well.
It's a combination of Gwen Stacy and Deadpool. How can it go wrong? 2
of their hottest selling characters right now.
There you go.
Yeah. Black Widow number 6.
Which I could never get to open in the app. Dude, why does this app continue to have issues? Just as a side trip. We both, at least once a week, have app issues. We love the app. We love the comics. We love Marvel Comics. There are no bigger fans than us. We do a podcast about it. But why does the flipping app have issues?
I don't know, man. Because Marvel's not really putting a whole lot of time or money into it. And if I had to guess, they're contracting this thing out to some development team that's 3 dudes.
I guess, man. It was just.
It's a waste of it's a waste of effort. They could really be doing something with this app.
Apparently.
And I'm with you. I don't think they're using it. It's a tool in their toolbox, and I don't think they're using it.
I don't think so. I think they they make a certain amount of money off of it, and they're
Mhm.
happy with what they make, and they don't want to cut out their distributors
Yeah.
and undermine what they're doing with the sales and the trade paperbacks. So they just, it is what it is.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Either they're happy with the money it makes, or it's not making as much money as they'd like, but it is making money, so it just kind of stays in limbo. And they don't have to worry about it pissing off the brick and mortar stores and the distributors.
I guess the brick and mortar stores are still doing enough that they want to keep them in business. I don't know, man.
That seems to be where they're making most of their sales money. I think they pull a WWE and really go all out with this.
Yeah, you and I looked at what I sent you a story today about what the WWE did.
Mhm.
And when they cut the cord from the pay-per-views, and everybody thought they had lost their mind. When they cut the cord with the pay-per-views and created the WWE network. But the money they're generating now, dude, they're up to what are they up to? 2 million subscribers a month?
2 to 3.
Domestically.
Yeah.
Okay. If you watch a pay-per-view now, they've got a Mandarin. They have a Mandarin announce team at every pay-per-view because they're just now starting to break into China. Okay.
Yeah.
They've gone from 3 announce teams. All right. It's like 10 announce teams there because they're breaking into every market in the freaking world, including China.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, you just sign up for the service, and you don't have to rely on those television networks to get your product into the hands of people around the world. They cut out that middleman.
And Marvel is just afraid to cut the cord of the distributors and go wholesale into the digital side of this thing. They're just afraid to cut the cord of the distributors, go wholesale side of the digital. And you and I both read it's a fascinating article because the WWE is able to analyze everything that everybody watches, how long they watch it, what they watch, how many minutes they watch it, what they watch it on, every bit of it. And then they're able to tailor everything they put on the network for what people want to see.
Yeah. And to me, that would be immensely beneficial to have this information if your aim is to sell comic books.
And Marvel could do that. They anyway.
They're getting some of that information from this app anyway. But if they really promoted it and really put people on it, I think they'd have a better job, or they'd have better information. I mean, right now that all they have to work with is user feedback from Twitter and the letters pages and sales numbers from Diamond, which they don't get until months after the books have sold. They get it quarterly.
I know.
Maybe monthly. I forget. But still, you could, whereas you could know in essentially real time how well Captain America is doing, or how well received a certain event is, or whether they like this new writer on this new book.
Dude, you could see how many times a page is read. You could see if people stop reading a book halfway through because it sucked. You could have all that information instantly.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know, maybe they don't see as much revenue in digital comics as we think is there, or they just have built these relationships with the distributors and these brick and mortar stores that they just don't want to ruin it. I don't know, but digital comics are the future of this industry, and eventually you've got to embrace it.
Dude.
I mean, it could be worse. We could be huge DC fans and not be able to do this podcast because they don't have anything like this.
I guess, man.
DC fans are clamoring for a Marvel Unlimited style app.
This is true.
It's all they want.
I know.
So at least we got that.
That's true.
And I tell you what I'd really like to see is a 2-tiered system for Marvel Unlimited. The one we have now that's like $10 a month, where you're getting everything delayed, or like a $12.99 or even a $15 a month version where you get everything day and date.
Yeah. It's not, it wouldn't be $15.99. It'd be 20 or 25, but I'd still pay it.
I'd pay $20.
Yeah. I'd pay 20 or 25 for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, having this app is more likely going to make me go out and buy a trade paperback or a hardcover.
Yeah.
Because with this app, I don't have to go in and pay cover price for all these books, because I don't have that kind of budget. But I can read everything for $10 a month with this and go, oh, hey, like I'd never be reading Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Right now, Unbeatable Squirrel Girl is one of my favorite things that Marvel's publishing.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't be reading this Visions book. Easily the best thing they're publishing.
Yep.
Dude, no brainer. But what do I know? We're just two voices on the internet.
I agree, man. I agree.
Anyway, Black Widow number 6. We begin in Tony's workshop. He hears news reports about Black Widow being responsible for capturing Professor Jensen. Professor Jensen was the professor who was captured with Tony before he became Iron Man and helped him build the original Iron Man suit. And then we have a flashback scene where all this happens, where Natasha in her younger days abducts Professor Jensen. Back in the present, Tony flies over to Paris, which is where Natasha is apparently, and she's talking to somebody on the phone. Looks like she's been beat up pretty bad. And Tony, already kind of off his rocker, demands to know if the stories about her and Professor Jensen are true. Tony, having some sympathy for her, takes his friend to one of his offices and labs and gets her cleaned up. Turns out you should never trust a spy. It's a trap. Black Widow needed access to Tony's lab and tricks him into letting her in. She steals his quarterly sales info, Stark Industries quarterly sales info, and delivers it to her contact, where she meets the real Weeping Lion, who's the guy that's been blackmailing her. And it turns out that guy's a telepath. And the meeting doesn't quite go as you think it might.
Well, now I really want to read this book, even though I couldn't get it open.
Dude, it's pretty good.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Wish I could read it.
Yeah, it wasn't half bad.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That brings us to Mockingbird number 6, which is a quandary of a book, because it's kind of an interesting book. Bobby Marcy is on a cruise ship mourning what Hawkeye is going through, and she thinks someone there has a lead that will get Hawkeye free. So she's kind of depressed. At the same time, it's basically a nerd cruise. It's kind of like Comic-Con on a cruise ship. So,
which has been happening a lot lately to a lot of success. Comic-Con cruises have been a big thing.
There's just all kinds of cosplay and games and comic sales and in jokes. And she's looking for a dude in a horse head. The problem is there's like 53 people walking around in horse heads. And she runs into Hunter, and she's supposed to meet him at the pool, but she's got a phobia about germs in the pool.
Is this the first time we've actually seen Hunter in the comic books?
No, he was in like issue 2 or 3, wasn't he?
Oh, that's right. She goes and rescues him from those dominatrix people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, on page 20 of this book, is that not the girl from the Spider-Verse at the bottom?
Hang on. I have to navigate to the book because I was reviewing a different book.
I understand. So, and there at the end of the book, finally, she's convinced the guy with the horse head is just, is worthless. But then she finds out at the end of the book that the guy with Horsehead is dead, and that's kind of the end of that.
What page did you say?
20.
20.
Yep. While you're doing that, I'll get Iron Man and Iron Fist queued. Power Man and Iron Fist queued up.
Which lady?
One of the far left.
Oh, the one who's asking if they're going to the ninja dance party?
Yeah.
I don't know. Have we seen her from another universe?
She looks like the what's the girl that's Dr. Octopus' assistant? The one that's leading them around in the Spider-Verse.
Oh, Octavia? No,
Yeah.
It doesn't look like her at all.
Well, I thought it did.
That's an old lady, and Octavia is not.
I think if you put two side by side, it might.
I don't think so.
So anyway, the guy with Horsehead winds up dead. Now we've got a murder mystery on our hands.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. This Power Man and Iron Fist book isn't really, it's okay. I've really enjoyed this series, but this issue kind of blows.
Yeah, it feels like it's losing a little steam.
They're trying to break software. It turns out the software is a facial ID recognition software, and it knows who Luke Cage is, and it knows his prison record, even though his prison record is supposed to be expunged and not supposed to be there. Everybody's trying to figure out what's going on, including, everybody. Jessica Jones, everybody. Danny's finding people in prison, including 8-Man. They were busting him out of prison. Luke plans on busting him out of prison. Then at the end, Alpha Flight's there to arrest Luke because he wants to bust Danny out of prison. There you go. It's not,
I have a feeling the next issue will be better. This was a lot of build-up.
Yeah, it just wasn't. It was a lot of build-up, and it just wasn't.
It was odd.
It was odd. Okay. Yeah, it was.
Sometimes you have to have these issues where they set up a bunch of stuff so that you can have the exciting story later.
Yeah. It was a filler issue. And we hate saying that sometimes, but that's really what it was. It really was a filler issue. And I'm looking for the Mighty Thor number 10 as soon as I find. There it is.
Yeah, this was not a filler issue.
No, I'm trying to remember what it was about, because I read it early in the week. As soon as I get there, we will start discussing it.
I didn't actually write any notes about it.
I never write notes. Do it all from that fine-tuned memory that gets cracked in the head occasionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good book. You got the whole thing with
Oh, that's right. Oh, what was really funny is the dude's leading this cheerleading squad from Roxxon about how they're the best and they're going to defend Roxxon and they're never going to die. And
he immediately gets shot in the head.
Yeah, he gets shot in the head, and that lady from what's her name? Lady Midas takes him out in about 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. Then Thor and the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent show up, and they go through what's left of them in about 10 seconds. Yeah. It's pretty good. They don't last very long. And then they start trying to rescue the flying city, and about that time, the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents show up, and they think, the other two S.H.I.E.L.D. agents show up, and they're like, oh, good, you're here to help. And they're like, no, we're here to arrest Thor.
Yeah, they're like super into arresting Thor. And it's like, you realize this whole city's about to come crashing down on New York, right?
Yeah, we don't care. We're going to arrest Thor.
Yeah, it's like you understand that maybe your priorities are a little out of whack.
Yeah, we don't care.
Yeah, they don't care at all.
Yeah. And as all this is going on, Thor gets shot in the hand with one of the gold bullets that makes her arm start turning gold. And then the Rainbow Bridge materializes and Jane Foster walks through to help her.
Yeah.
Which is pretty strange. Yeah.
Yeah, because now you've got Jane Foster, who we secretly know is Captain America, is Thor. But then you've got regular Jane Foster there. So you've got both of them there at the same time. My theory is that one of them is Loki.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too, because I think he likes Jane Foster and Thor.
Yeah, he likes Jane Foster as Thor.
Yeah. Beautiful color on this book. It's good art, but it's a good use of coloring. We discussed this last week a lot, but really good color.
Yeah, the art in this book is really good all around.
Yeah. Yep. I really enjoyed this. This story has really picked up pace, and I like what they're doing with it. This is a very long story that Jason Aaron has had going for years. In first the previous Thor book, and he's continued it over into this Thor book.
He's really good with these overarching plots.
Yeah, and this thing's been going on for years with Roxxon and the guy that's leading Roxxon and Thor fighting them, both Thors, Odin's son, and now Lady Thor, Jane Foster Thor, and I've really enjoyed it. I really have.
Yeah, I always enjoy Aaron's writing, Jason Aaron's writing.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I didn't enjoy.
All New Inhumans number 10?
Dude, it just...
this book sucks.
I wasn't going to go that far, but I'll agree with you. It just... This is a 3-issue arc that just didn't really... I don't know, man.
It was fluffy. Like, they have all the... Like, you look at the storyline with Gorgon. There's this whole thing about him getting involved with one of these what is the name of this group of Inhumans that they're visiting?
Well, what happened is he was going to get in bed with one of them, and his chair freaked out and attacked her.
Right. And you have like 3 issues of him being interrogated, and then they just wrap it up all real quick in this issue.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, it was all just a lie detector, and we wanted to make sure you weren't telling a lie. Oh, there you go.
We're all good now.
Like 2 panels. All right, we're all good. What?
Yeah. And then in the beginning, there's all this fervent talk about the glory of Terrigenesis, and all of that would be really cool if these were characters who meant anything. $100 says we're never going to see any of these characters again. Yeah,
it's just all, I mean, it's just.
And we went to go visit the kid's mom or whatever, or help him find his mom, but like, what was the point of this whole story?
Yeah, I don't know.
It just chased its own tail for a while.
Yeah,
and by the way, what happened to those spires? Did we just forget about those spires that were crashing into Earth that nobody knew what was going on with them?
I mean, I think the point was to develop these 3 characters, but I'm not even sure we did that very well.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I'm going to give you a spoiler, okay? Mm-hmm. If you don't want it, all right, you need to skip about
3 minutes.
No, about 60 to 90 seconds, okay? By the time you get to IVX, Karnak is walking. And I thought this is where we were going to get it.
Karnak's already walking.
But no, he's in a chair. He's in a chair when he leaves here.
Karnak's not in this book.
Not Karnak, Gorgon.
There you go.
Yeah, Gorgon. One of the guys.
Dude, Gorgon and Karnak are very different Inhumans.
One of those, the dude with the hoofs, okay?
Yeah, the dude with the hoofs. There you go.
That tells you how uninterested I am in this book, okay? I just, dude, this is just bad.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, it just sucks. And next issue is the last issue of it, and I'm glad for it.
Thank God.
Yeah, because the other Inhumans book is really good.
Yeah,
Uncanny Inhumans is really good, and this all new Inhumans just really misses the mark.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I've never been super interested in the Inhumans. I'm trying to make myself interested in the Inhumans now because they're becoming a bigger part of the Marvel Universe. I'm finding them interesting. I like some of the characters, Karnak in particular. I like Medusa too, and and the dude with the investigative powers.
Yeah,
that guy's cool. I forget what his name is, but he's cool.
Raider's cool, man.
Raider, that's him.
No, Raider's the blind guy.
Yeah, well, he's
guy's
cool
a different guy. I mean, there's several of them that are really cool, but these 3 issues, man, just went nowhere.
Yeah, and it's just it's weak writing, I feel like.
I mean, because what the 2 teams are, the Uncanny is the team that Medusa has on New Attilan, and this all new book is the one that Crystal has with the ship flying around.
Right, they're like the ambassador group.
Right. Instead, it just became this, this 3-issue story arc is just, these 3 guys here, and it just sucked. Anyway, we've talked about it too much.
Yeah, we have.
Captain America, Sam Wilson, number 12.
So I actually enjoyed this book. We open with a flashback scene of Steve Rogers bailing Sam out of jail back. Technically, it was the 70s, but some time ago.
Yeah.
Sam was wrongfully arrested for trying to apprehend a bank robber, who it turns out they thought Sam was the bank robber because he was black.
Yeah.
Back in the present, Sam Wilson and Falcon have confronted the AmeriCops and Rage. They confront both of them. Elsewhere, U.S. Agent is meeting with the creators of the AmeriCops program, and they want to recruit him to take out Sam Wilson for them because they don't think he's a very good Captain America. Back to what Sam's doing. He's trying to de-escalate the whole situation with the AmeriCops. That all goes to hell when Rage just decides to punch one of the cops in the face. We keep flipping back and forth between Sam and U.S. Agent. They're trying to smear him and convince U.S. Agent to go take the shield away from him. And he's initially hesitant to do so, but the suit's laid on pretty thick, and the ongoing breaking news coverage of what's going on with the AmeriCops doesn't really help. So back with Sam, he calls in Falcon to fly Rage out of the situation so that he can try to get a handle on it. And he tries to fly away himself just to get the situation under control, but he gets caught in a net. He's unable to he's able to escape just before the AmeriCops get to him. But before he can make a clean getaway, he catches a shield in the back, and U.S. Agent's there to do what he does. And this book is, I don't want to spend a ton of time on it because it's got some political overtones, and I don't want to get into that. But it's a good book, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I am too. It's hard to talk about it without getting into those political overtones, but
Yeah.
I'm not. But in this day and age, I think we need to get in those political overtones. And Marvel is doing a good job with putting different writers with these books and letting those overtones come out, and it's not a bad thing.
Right. They don't get super political, but it does have some implications.
Right.
I mean, the whole thing with the AmeriCop, the heads of the AmeriCop program, everything that they're saying to U.S. Agent is stuff you heard a particular group of politicians say about a particular president that we had recently.
Right.
They're all just geared towards Sam Wilson instead of, other people.
Sure.
So
it was a good book.
Yeah, they got away from the werewolf thing, and the last 6 or so issues of this book have actually been really good.
Yeah.
That's all of our Marvel books. Moving on to the Star Wars universe. The only Star Wars book we had this week was Poe Dameron number 5. Poe and his crew are stuck between a rock and a hard place on this prison planet. Okay, you got Gracchus the Hutt. He knows the last known location of Lor San Tekka. However, being a Hutt, he's devised this scheme where he'll give the info to whoever gets him out of this prison. And it's a race between Poe Dameron and his folks, and Agent Terrax and the what do you call those people? They're the Empire, but not the Empire. The First Order.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
it was coming to me. I pictured the white outfits and yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So Agent Terrax attempts to negotiate with the crime lords of this prison, while Poe Dameron sets BB-8 and the other droids back on the space station on a mission to help him out, which is really smart of him. Unfortunately, the droids have run into some trouble, and we'll see what happens. Good book. I've really enjoyed this Poe Dameron series. Not the best issue of it, but it was a lot of putting the pieces in place so that you can. The next issue is going to be pretty action packed, I feel like.
Cool.
Have you read this Poe Dameron book at all?
I'm trying, man. I'm trying.
No, I understand. Do you understand what's happening in it?
Yes.
Okay. Because if you don't know who Lor San Tekka is and what Poe Dameron's mission is, it doesn't make any sense.
You've explained it to me, and I do. Yes.
Okay, good. All right. One day I'll tell you my theory about who the Supreme Leader Snoke is and where all these First Order people came from.
I read a online theory the other day that it was golly, what's the villain from episode 1?
Darth Maul?
Yeah, I read a theory that it was him.
It's not Darth Maul.
Just what I read, man. I didn't say it was. I said that's the theory I read.
Well, there's people who think it's Mace Windu. So
yeah, I read that theory too.
Yeah. There's people who think it's, Jar Jar Binks, and that Jar Jar Binks is actually a Sith Lord. Funny thing though, there's a trilogy of books that Chuck Wendig wrote that came out recently, and it tells of everything that happened between Return of the Jedi and current timeline.
Yeah.
And we actually find out what happens to Jar Jar Binks.
That's a reason not to read him.
Oh no, it's not. It's like 3 sentences. The rest of the book is really good, or the books are really good, but you get a little aside as to what happens to Jar Jar Binks. Spoiler, his people turn on him for bringing about the Empire, and he's basically a homeless beggar, and everybody thinks he's insane. He becomes the crazy homeless beggar of his wherever he lives.
Okay, good. I was hoping he would be thrown alive into a sun, but that's close enough.
Oh man. Anyway, what was your favorite book this week?
Uncanny Avengers 12.
Yeah, me too. I think it like we said earlier, it was a mediocre week overall, and that was the real shining jewel of all the books.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and tell us about the classic read this week.
As we record this, Wolverine, the next X-Men movie, which is a Hugh Jackman Wolverine movie entitled Logan, will be coming out this Friday, March 3rd. And to understand that, as we have all been led to believe, it is based on the Old Man Logan story. And the young girl in it is Laura Kinney, which is X-23. If you look at the top of your Marvel Unlimited tab, you'll see 2 titles up there. You'll see the Old Man Logan storyline, and you'll see an X-23 series, which is fairly close to her origin. We've discussed these before, but to tie in with the movie, they're pretty good stories to read, either before you see the movie or afterwards. If we're accurate and everything that we've seen is accurate, they're pretty close to it, and they're a good read. Yeah,
it'll be, if you read these books, which are very good, and it's only like a 4 or 5 part series, maybe it's 6 parts, I don't know. I read them recently, a couple months ago. They're really good books, and it'll be close enough that you'll understand what's happening in the movie.
Yeah, the X-23 is 6. The Old Man Logan is 7 or 8, maybe 6 or 7. But yeah, it's not a long read.
Yeah.
It's not 120 books like Civil War.
No. And if you want to dive in even deeper, go to your browse tab and go to characters and browse X-23. There's a bunch of little mini series about X-23 if you want to know more about her. And all of them are very good. So check that out.
Yep.
Well, that pretty much wraps us up for the week. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. You can visit our website at
www.6monthsbehind.com.
And Pat, before we go, as is tradition, do you have any wisdom for our true believers?
Experience is something you don't get until just after you need it.
Man, that hits close to home.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Peace.